Greetings everyone, and welcome to my presentation/seminar/the findings of my 7-year research on finance, history of money, monetary and banking system, precious metals, cryptocurrencies, investments and business models. After the request of many of my partners and of course many of my friends, I took the time to sit down and put together the most vital information into a PowerPoint presentation to inform everyone out there willing to listen and learn about what is happening into the financial world, why is it happening, and what is coming next. I hope that you will be interested in knowing the right answers on the very serious questions I'm asking you here, like, will there be another financial crisis or another bubble? Are you preparing for that? Do you know how to prepare? How safe will you be when the next international stock market bubble, real estate and housing bubble, or even worse, when the debt, money and credit bubble bursts? Do you have any idea what is coming? Hi, my name is Christos Pavlopoulos, and I'm one of a handful of Greeks that in 2009 saw the magnitude of the crisis that was coming when 99% of the people didn't even notice a crisis coming. Back then, I didn't have the knowledge that I do today, so my only option was to run. I sold all my assets and moved to Sweden thinking I will be safe. I was wrong. Even though I don't regret my move here, later on I realized I just bought some more time to prepare myself, since what is happening in Greece is not a Greek crisis that is spreading, but an international crisis that just happened to start in my country, and Greece was the first in a series of dominoes that will soon fall. After 7 years of intense research and studies here in Stockholm, I'm now one of the best financial analysts, author of a Greek book that will soon be published in English, Swedish and Russian. I'm a precious metals investor, an entrepreneur and a public speaker. So please, for your own sake, pay attention to what I have to say, because I know my stuff and I will prove it to you. This presentation is divided into 3 parts. The first part is general financial knowledge, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, but it will be enough to shake you to your core and help you realize what is happening, why is it happening, and where it will lead us in the next 2 to 3 years. The information are 100% correct, and the facts I will present to you are 100% true, although unbelievable. But you can always start your own research if you don't believe me. Part 2 and 3 are the solutions and the way to protect yourself, that if combined together will have an amazing outcome for you, your loved ones, your wealth, and everyone you know. I know this presentation is long, but it will worth your time, so please find a quiet spot away from any distractions and focus on the information. When I first came to Sweden with my liquidated wealth, I didn't know what to do, where to invest, and what kind of business I wanted to start. For many years I was into rental real estate, and although small-timer, I had managed to create for myself a residual passive income to support me without having to work. In other words, after tons of hard work, saving, and smart moves and investments, I finally managed to give myself a good pension at the age of 35, and I could just retire and enjoy life. I wasn't rich, but I had the average income of a worker, but without having to work, while planning to increase slowly my rental properties and my income while creating generational wealth for my future kids. In Sweden, though, with housing prices so high and insane taxes, I had to stay away from real estate. I knew back in 2009 that there is a big housing bubble in Sweden. I just had escaped the Greek housing bubble, and I wouldn't let the Swedish one burst to my face. So I did the simplest thing. Opened my computer and Googled alternative investments. There were many propositions and ideas there. Some insane, some looked to be scams and frauds, and the rest just didn't resonate with me. Then I saw this video that changed everything for me, and it was the reason to start looking to the right direction, and the reason I am who I am and do what I do today.
Silver, the most undervalued metal in human history. Gold today is without a doubt more rare than silver. But what about tomorrow? On average today, for every 10 ounces of silver pulled out of the ground, only 1 ounce of gold is mined. However, the majority of silver mined is used for consumption, while the majority of gold mined is nearly all added to global inventory. Yet precious metal investors, as small of a group as they are still investing $7 in GLD for every $1 they invest in SLV. Looking at modern history, silver is destined to be more rare and certainly worth more than gold. In 1950, there were 10 billion ounces of above-ground available silver. By 1980, it shrank to 3.5 billion ounces, and in 2010, it is estimated that above-ground available silver supply is between 500 to 700 million ounces. To put this into perspective, total above-ground available gold in 1950 was 1 billion ounces, and today, it's estimated to be around 7 billion ounces. In 1980, when silver nearly reached $50 per ounce, global population was 2.5 billion people. Global GDP was $10 trillion, and China had the 11th largest economy. Today, global population is near 7 billion people. Global GDP, $60 trillion, and China is now the second largest economy. So the population since 1980 is up 176%. Global GDP is up 500%. Above ground available gold is up 600%. Meanwhile, above ground available silver has plummeted at least by 91%, and the price is still down 46% from its 1980 high of $50 per ounce. To say the opportunity in silver is enormous is an understatement. Looking at the historical silver to gold ratio of 15 to 1, silver is highly undervalued today. It now takes 50 ounces of silver to purchase 1 ounce of gold. Even when ignoring the above ground supply deviation, mined metal production should at the very least bring that number to 10 to 1. Using today's prices with gold at $1,400, silver should be worth no less than $140 per ounce. Silver is being consumed more than ever, and it is a fact that there is less above ground available silver than there is gold. Industrial demand for silver is up 18% in just the last year. The need for silver is growing by the day. Silver is being consumed and used for bandages for wound care, batteries, brazing, soldering, catalytic converters, cell phones, computers, satellites, high-tech weaponry, lasers, digital technology, clothing, electronic circuit boards, ink, solar cells, water purification, wood treatment, antennas, RFID chips, freeway toll transponders, passports, and the list goes on. From 1990 to 2000, nearly 2 billion ounces of above-ground available silver disappeared to consumption. Yet industrial demand for silver was only 35% by the year 2000. Today, it's 54%. And looking at the new uses for silver, the silver production deficit will only widen. China, since 2003, has been growing its solar energy base by almost 100% every year. By 2014, the world will need 130 million ounces of silver just to satisfy 1 year of global solar demand. The world has consumed so much silver in the last 50 years that the last time above ground available inventory was this low was 1300 AD. The deficit of silver production has been met mostly from government stockpiles. The U.S. has dumped nearly 5 billion ounces since World War II into the silver markets. But as of 2010, according to the USGS, government stockpile for silver are listed as none. The supply and demand deficit continues to be ignored by global investors year after year, decade after decade. Total mining production for 2009 was 710 million ounces. Total demand was 889 million ounces. That's a mining production deficit of 179 million ounces to meet demand. With each day comes a new use for silver, and the supply and demand deficit continues to eat away at the above ground available supply. FutureMoneyTrends.com is projecting that just as palladium was once worth more than platinum, silver will one day be worth more than gold. The demand for silver will continue to increase, yet mining production will never be able to keep up, depleting the above-ground available silver supply possibly by the end of this decade. Silver may be the greatest investment in human history, How often doesn't any generation get the opportunity to invest in a finite resource that will soon be extinct?
I've watched this video more than 1,000 times, and every time it gives me the chills. When I first saw it, I was stunned and amazed. Can that be true? I asked myself. If half of what they say are true, then I had to learn more about silver, and thus I started my 7-year study and research, and this video led me to learn about money and history of money, banking and monetary system, and finance and economics. So let's start from the beginning. Many things were used as money throughout history, like cattle, crops, seashells, tea, swords and battle axes, precious stones and gems. At some point people discovered gold and silver, but they were rare and fine metals, beautiful and shiny and easy to use, melt and shape. The free market chose these two metals to be the medium of exchange and a store of value for thousands of years, until finally in ancient Greece at about 400 BC, gold and silver were formed into coins of approximately same size, purity and weight, and became money. There is a difference between currency and money, as we will see later on this seminar. For now, let's see what makes something money. It has to be portable, so you can carry it with you. It has to be durable, so it cannot easily be destroyed and last for thousands of years, if not millions. It has to be divisible, so you can have change, interchangeable and acceptable, a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and most important, to be a real store of value, so you can store in it your energy, your labor, effort and time for thousands of years in order for you or someone else to be able to use it later on. Let's take a look at the so-called evolution of monetary system that, as you see, is actually the destruction of money. In 1870, all the Western world was in the gold standard, so our money, although paper money, they were all backed by gold and silver at 100% rate. For example, every dollar you had in your hands was a claim check on a certain amount of gold and silver coins. There was a time when you could go back to the bank, give them back your paper dollars, and get your silver or gold coin back. Then we have World War I, and all the combatants, not having as much gold as they claimed on silver in their vaults to pay for the war, started printing more claim checks, meaning they started counterfeiting money. After World War I, they told the world that we went back to the gold standard like nothing happened. But in reality, there were more claim checks on gold and silver that they had, so every claim check wasn't backed 100% by gold and silver, like in the gold standard. Then we have World War II, and the central banks and the governments did the same thing. And after the war, paper money was backed only by 20% by gold and silver. Since the US helped win the war, they demanded a new international monetary system, a new international currency, and we went to Bretton Woods Agreement, claiming that we were back in the gold standard, but we were not. The agreement was that the United States dollar will be the international reserve currency, and all other currencies will be linked to the dollar, that only it will be backed by gold at $35 per ounce. 1 ounce is 31.1 grams. And that was it. There was no agreement on how much percentage of gold and silver will be backing every dollar. The privately owned United States Central Bank just promised that they will not print way too much paper claim checks on the gold and silver they already had in their vaults. Believe a liar. After that, there was a marathon of dollar printing, and the US became the superpower we know today by counterfeiting money and forcing all nations to use them for international trade. At some point, countries started wondering if the United States actually had that much gold and silver to cover all these otherwise useless pieces of paper, and Charles de Gaulle, the president of France, was the first to send all the paper dollars he accumulated in his vaults by selling real goods and services, and demanded that all of them will be exchanged for gold at $35 per ounce under the Bretton Woods Agreement. More and more nations started doing the same, and in 1971, President Nixon broke the agreement and separated gold and silver from the United States dollar. Believe it or not, since that day our money are not money anymore, but useless pieces of fancy paper with numbers on them, that can be printed, of course, in unlimited quantities. The only way to measure how much all this paper money really worth is to burn them and measure the amount of heat we can extract from them. Another interesting observation here, as Mike Maloney points out, is that every 30 to 40 years the monetary system changes. You see, 44 years, then 31 years, then 28 years, and now we're in this fiat Ponzi scheme for 44 years plus what's coming. Many experts, like Mike Maloney, Jim Rickards, Robert Kiyosaki, and many more, believe, like me and other people with common sense and logic, that the monetary system will change again sooner than you think, probably before or a bit after 2020, and this time probably the free market will force a gold standard again on the governments and the bankers. Here is what happened to our currencies. Here we have two United States dollars. Can you spot the difference? On the top is an old one that actually say silver certificate, $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. Look at the one we use today. It is just a note, a filthy Federal Reserve note. It's a certificate on nothing. Here I have more examples for you. Silver certificate for 10 silver coins, gold certificate for 20 gold coins, 5 silver coins, and 1 silver coin. And finally, again, the Federal Reserve note that represents only death, debt, taxes, and slavery. Your slavery, my slavery, and our kids' slavery. That doesn't apply only to the US dollar, but all and every single paper currency out there. Now let me show you what happened to the buying power of the dollar since 1913 and the creation of the private central bank called the Federal Reserve. This is the chart. It has lost 98% of its value, and that is up to 2013. Today its purchasing power is almost zero. Your currency is not better than that, okay? The euro has lost half its buying power and exists only for 18 years. And the same happened to all currencies, like the British pound, the Swedish crown, and all others. They might go up and down in respect to each other, but they will all go down in value every time governments print and banks lend. Plus, every time the US, for example, prints to weaken the dollar so they can export more, the European Union cannot export their expensive stuff, so they have to print to export theirs. Then China prints to weaken their yen to be able to export their stuff, and we are now in a devaluation race. Let's see who will be the first to take the value of his currency to zero before all the rest follow. There was no fiat currency, meaning money that they were not backed by gold or silver in human history, that didn't go eventually to zero. They are designed to go to zero because their purpose is to transfer people's hard-earned wealth to the bankers and the government. Now let's see the difference between money and currency and why paper was never, is not, and will never be money. As we learned earlier in this educational seminar, in order for something to be money, it has to be portable, and they both are. It has to be durable, how durable the paper is. It can be torn or burned. Gold and silver are almost indestructible. Throw them in the sea or bury them in the ground, for thousands of years they will be there. Melt them into formless shape, and they will still keep their value, because their value is in their material. I also have question mark indivisible, since even though we can have change for both money and currency, if I cut in half a 50 euro note, I won't have two notes worth of 25 euros. It is destroyed. If I cut in half a silver coin, now I have two pieces that worth half of its original. They are both interchangeable and acceptable, although with the gold and silver rush lately and the Bitcoin rush, less and less people show signs that they don't want paper anymore. Both are units of account and a medium of exchange, but only gold and silver can be used as store of value for long periods of time, and so gold and silver aren't the only money for the human species. Nothing else is money. Gold and silver was, is, and will always be the only money. The sooner you get that, the better. All wars are bankers' wars. What do these three men have in common? All refused to accept American dollars for oil, and Gaddafi had the nerve to defy the filthy present monetary system and try to take Africa back to the gold standard, creating the golden dinar. I will take you back a little bit now. You see, After Nixon took the world completely out of the gold standard, in other words, he admitted that the US was stealing the wealth of all other nations by not accepting to convert the dollars into gold and silver as promised, US and the bankers had to find a way to back somehow the dollar in order to keep it as world reserve currency. They approached the oil-producing nations in the Middle East and promised to protect them and give them weapons and whatever they needed. But they will have to sell their oil only for dollars, forcing an artificial demand for dollars worldwide. That was the birth of the petrodollar. So the US backed the dollar with oil, other people's oil. Believe a liar once again, and soon the nations in the Middle East, like Charles de Gaulle, saw their vaults filled with paper that was rapidly losing its purchasing power, and one after the other wanted to start selling their oil for other things like euros, yuan, gold and silver. People think the wars in the Middle East happened so the US can steal the oil, but it's not true. They were stealing their oil already by exchanging useless pieces of paper for it. They didn't have to invade Middle East. Surely grabbing the oil is a bonus, but the real reasons for all these wars are, first, to put the oil back into the market only for dollars, because if the dollar stops being the international reserve currency, automatically the US will stop being a superpower and will turn in a matter of days in a failed broke country and won't be able to have the army to be used to protect the international bankers. Two, all the Middle East countries had national central banks that the private central bankers of the West couldn't profit from. So after the invasion of a country, they created a privately owned central bank that creates money as debt and enslave the people of the country. What amazes me and puzzles me at the same time is that in 1971, when Nixon took the dollar and in extend the whole world out of the gold standard, nothing happened. That should have been the day that World War III started. Logic dictates that all the nations who should have come together and invade the US and take back the stolen gold and silver that Nixon denied to return to them. But it didn't happen. You see, the international bankers came to aid the US by convincing most of the governments around the world that it was better this way for everybody. We didn't need the restrictions of gold and silver because now the bankers could create as much money as they wanted out of thin air and profit, and governments can get as much money as they wanted in the form of loans from the bankers in order to be socialists and offer free education, public works, healthcare, bigger armies, better salaries for them and their friends, and pretend that they care about the rest of the people, so they will rule for longer, secretly passing the bill to the useful and productive people in their countries. What you learn here is the truth, as simple, provable facts and common sense. But this knowledge is secret. Even today, with the internet and the social media, 99.9999% of the people have total ignorance in these matters that are the most important matters in our lives. Not even PhD professors in the top financial universities and institutions have this knowledge. So consider yourself privileged to have the opportunity to watch this presentation. And please thank the one that showed you this seminar of all this total free knowledge. And if you like it, we will appreciate it if you send it and show it to everyone you know and help us make this information go viral, because our cause is noble. Now let me show you that there is hope and people are waking up to this reality. Even kids can understand what is going on.
It was about 5 or 6 weeks ago that Victoria spoke to a group of 600 people at a Rotary Club, and she's going to be giving the same speech to us today. And I saw it, I think a week or so after it hit the web, it started going around, and so I quickly got on the phone and talked with her dad Zane and invited them here. And so we have a very special treat. So Victoria, come on up, do your thing. Go up.
Have you ever wondered why Canada is in debt? Have you ever wondered why the government forces Canadians to pay so many taxes? Have you ever wondered why the bankers from the largest private banks are becoming wealthier and the rest of us are not? Have you ever wondered why the gross national debt is over $800 billion? Or why we are spending $160 million a day on the interest of the national debt? That's $60 billion a year. Have you ever wondered who receives the $60 billion? What I have discovered is the banks and the government have colluded to financially enslave the people of Canada. I will share with you 3 important points of reference, which will hopefully spark enough interest and concern for you to continue the research on your own and to engage your government to stop this criminal act against the people of Canada. First, we will briefly examine the Bank of Canada. Second, we will see how our banking system works today. And lastly, I will offer a viable solution that we can petition our government to implement. A very little known figure in Canadian history is J.L. Gradon McGeer. He was a lawyer, member of Parliament, and Mayor of Vancouver. His contribution to Canada is probably the greatest in our history. He championed the creation of the National Bank of Canada, whose sole purpose is to create and manage Canada's money. It was formed on July 3, 1934, and owned by all Canadians. Until the 1970s, because of the Bank of Canada, Canada's national debt was held at a constant, manageable level, until the government decided to implement what we now have as our modern-day banking system that is robbing the Canadian people. So how are they robbing us? Allow me to explain how our private banks and government work today. First, the Canadian government borrows money from the private banks. They then lend the debt-based money to Canada with compounded interest. The government then continues to increase taxation of Canadians year after year in order to pay back the interest on the exponentially growing national debt. What results is inflation, less real money for Canadians to spend into our economy, and the real money being used to pad the pockets of the banks. Also, the government gave the banks the ability to loan out money that doesn't exist in the form of loans. When a bank gives you a mortgage, which literally means a death pledge, or a loan, they don't actually give you money. They click a key on a computer and generate the fake money out of thin air. They don't actually have it in their bank vaults. Presently, the banks only have $4 billion on reserve, but they have loaned out over $1.5 trillion. To quote Graham Towers, each and every time a bank makes a loan, a new bank credit is created. New deposits, brand new money. Broadly speaking, all new money comes out of a bank in the form of loans. As loans are debt, then under the present system, all money is debt. What I find interesting is even Jesus, in Matthew 21, drove out the money changers in the temple because they were manipulating the currency to steal money from the people. The private banks are just like the money changers in Matthew 21. They are defrauding and robbing the people of Canada, thus their freedom, and they need to be stopped. How should the banking system work? In an infamous interview, Mr. McGeer asked Mr. Towers, "Can you tell me why a government with power to create money should give that power away to a private monopoly and then borrow that which Parliament can create itself back at interest to the point of national bankruptcy?" Mr. Towers replied, "If Parliament wants to change the form of operating the banking system, then certainly that is within the powers of Parliament. In other words, if the Canadian government needs money, they can borrow it directly from the Bank of Canada. The people would then pay fair taxes to repay the Bank of Canada. This tax money would in turn get injected back into our economic infrastructure and the debt would be wiped out. Canadians would again prosper with real money as the foundation of our economic structure and not debt money. Regarding the debt money owed to the private banks, such as the Royal Bank, we would simply have the Bank of Canada print the money owing, hand it over to the private banks, and then clear the debt with the Bank of Canada. And yes, we have the power and lawful right to do so. In conclusion, it has become painfully obvious, even for me, a 12-year-old Canadian, that we are being defrauded and robbed by the banking system and a complicit government. What will we do to stop this crime? What will we do to ensure that the next generation will live free and clear of the debt-based economy that enslaves them to the banks? Margaret Mead said the following, and I hope that all of you remember this. Never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.
A very powerful video that shows that people around the world are waking up, and more people like me and probably you want to wake up the others, and why not making money by doing so? You are more than welcome to join us. Of course, the little girl didn't talk about the second layer of banking fraud called fractional reserve banking. So let's say that you have $1,000 and you deposit that in a bank. The bank, under the present fractional reserve banking system, takes 10% of your cash and keeps it in reserves, then steals the 90% and loans it to others. Now you have a paper stating that you have $1,000 and someone else has 900. At this point there are 1,900 in the system. He who gets the loan, he did so he can buy something, a car, pay for shopping, a house, so he will give the money to the seller, who in turn will deposit the 900 in his bank. The same will happen. The bank will keep 10% as reserves in his account, steal 90%, meaning $810, and loan it to someone else. Now there are $2,710 in the system, and as this repeats and repeats, your $1,000 that you get 1% interest create another 9,000 fake digital dollars in the form of loans that the bankers get 10% interest as profit. If it's a fraud to sell something that you don't have, what can you say about lending out 9 times something that you don't have or it belongs to someone else, plus interest? That is simply why all nations are going deeper and deeper into debt every year to the bankers. And try help me solve another mathematical problem. If the first depositor up there is not an individual, but a country, and the $1,000 are all the money in its economy, and it ends up creating 9,000 debt, how the hell will you be able to pay down that debt with only 1,000 paper dollars? What all bankers do in cooperation with all the governments is theft and money counterfeiting. So here is the whole insidious process in conclusion. The government needs money, so they go to the central bank and exchange empty promises. The government say, I want $1 billion, so I want you to give me a paper that states that you owe me $1 billion because I know that you don't have that money. The central bank says, I will give you the written promise on paper that I owe you $1 billion because I don't have that money, but you will promise me on paper that you owe me $2 billion after 30 years. That is the $1 billion that you get plus the interest. They hug, they kiss, and run to the printing press and print $1 billion. Not $2 billion, but $1 billion that end up in commercial banks. They do their magic fractional reserve banking thing and create $9 billion in deposits, and they loan it to the people of the country. Now there is a $9 billion debt, but only $1 billion in printed money to repay that debt, so it's impossible. So the government has to go back to the central bank, get a bigger loan that the commercial banks will multiply by 9, and this is what is going on. And so the people have to go deeper and deeper into debt every year while paying more and more taxes to the government, so the government will try to pay some of the interest on its debt. This is insane. All and every currency in the world is debt. If you work and have a salary or profit or whatever, and you think you have earned that money, think again. What you and me and everyone around us is getting is the right to get a loan in the form of salary, because that money you get, your government owes them back, all plus interest, so you owe them back. They don't pay you, they lend you. This is why you are a slave. Not only you are not getting paid for your work, not only you work for absolutely free, but you owe them your salary back with interest, and they will collect one way or the other. The only difference between these two notes is your belief that one has more value than the other. In fact, the monopoly money are better, because if you have it, it's yours, you own it, and although it doesn't have any value, like your currency, at least you don't owe it back plus interest like you do with your currency. Inflation, another layer of theft and fraud. Now let's assume that this is our planet and we are 10 people living here. Now, All our money are $100 and represent the wealth of the planet, while each and every one of us has $10. So each one of us has 10% of the world's wealth. Now let's say that these two people up there in the circle are the banker and the governor, and they decide to print $100 more, split them with each other, and throw them into the economy that now has $200 in total. Now the banker has $60, the government has another 60, and the rest of us continue to have 10. No one came into our homes to steal our money. But automatically, now we lost half of our wealth, because we own only 5% of the total wealth, and that is because our $10 lost half of their buying power. This is what inflation really is. It is a hidden form of wealth confiscation. Let's take a look to another theft, taxation, because taxation is theft. If stealing 100% of the production of someone's labor is slavery, at what percentage it is not slavery? Governments should never be able to do anything you cannot do. If you can't steal from your neighbor, you cannot send the government to your neighbor to steal for you. Any nation trying to tax itself to prosperity is like a snake eating itself. Taxation is immoral and legalized slavery, and everyday people are waking up to this.
Yes, freeze! What makes sex not rape? Consent. What makes a job not slavery? Consent. What makes a transaction not robbery? You guessed it. Consent. Now, what makes taxation not theft? Oh, I know.
Imagination.
Taxation is theft. If this statement triggers you, then let's take a look at why I would say such a bold statement. Taxation is money taken by force, regardless of manifested consent. Taxes are levied on every person just for existing. Live on land, property taxes. Buy something, sales tax. Sell something, capital gains tax. Work for someone, income tax. And then there's all the taxes for air transportation, biodiesel fuel, building permits, business registration, cigarettes, sport fines, dog license, driver's license, unemployment, fishing license, food and beverage license, garbage, gasoline, gifts, gun ownership, health insurance, hunting license, inheritance, liquor, marriage license, school license plate. It doesn't matter that the money may be used for things that a person wants. It would be no different than someone coming into your house, stealing your money to go buy a lawnmower and then coming back and mowing your lawn. The fact of the matter is that taxation was always placed upon people without actually having the opportunity to elect into the goods and services that are forced upon them. Taxes should be eliminated. The state shouldn't receive funding through extorting you and your family. Nobody should be able to. Goods and services should not be provided at the barrel of a gun. The state should compete for your money like everyone else. Taxation is theft. It's time to bring the oppressive system of taxation down and make support of the government selective and voluntary.
Yes, freeze!
Exactly. Taxation is theft. The little girl managed to debunk and destroy the notion of taxation in under 2 minutes, so I don't have anything more to add. Banks and governments are working together. They profit together and they protect each other. Take the crisis of '08, where banks, insurance companies, and the Wall Street were bailed out, given trillions of dollars essentially as a gift and bonus for the crash they caused instead of being punished. Later on, the Greek government was bailed out, but the money they got was a loan with interest that the Greek people had to pay. So do you see the difference? Banks, corporations, criminals against humanity are bailed out for free, but nations and families get a loan with compounding interest. Bail-in is when a bank and the government just steal the deposits and savings or investments of people, and that is what happened in Cyprus. Now you might think Greece and Cyprus are far away and nothing like this will happen in Sweden or any other supposedly serious country with hard-working people, right? Well, think again. I personally had my money completely out of the banking system about 6 months before the bail-in in Cyprus because I didn't trust the banks anywhere in the world. What happened there was an experiment to see how will people react in a small-scale bail-in. But in 2016, the Swedish banks also changed the rules, and now if you have money in the bank, you don't count as a lender, but as an investor. The difference is huge, because as a lender, if bad things happen, you are the first to claim your money back because you didn't get any risk. The investor, on the other hand, is the last to claim anything because he carries all the risk. Recently, the European Central Bank announced that they will stop guaranteeing deposits in the banks, and if you combine that with the cashless society that the banks and the governments are pushing so hard, then you don't need to be very smart to understand that when the banks have your money in digital form trapped in their bank accounts, you won't have any means to protect your savings, and they will steal everything when the next crisis happens. They will destroy you with raging inflation and bail-ins and bailouts, and the only thing you will be able to do is to just sit and watch them do it. When it happened in Cyprus, my bet was they will soon follow many more countries like Greece, Spain, Portugal, but it didn't happen so far. Now I know why. Because if they started doing that in other countries, how long until the Scandinavian people or German people or the English start to realize that their country is next and rush to the banks and get out of the system and turn all their savings into cryptocurrencies or even better into gold and silver? So what the bankers are doing is that they are creating the framework now and the laws and the rules to entrap all Europeans into the banking system and slaughter all of us simultaneously. Another thing to support this notion is the Greek capital controls. Greeks can get their money in the form of cash, they can't buy and invest outside Greece, they cannot buy gold and silver, they can't send their money abroad. When it started back in June 2015, everybody was left to believe that it was not a permanent thing and that the capital controls are not in the best interest of anyone. And people bought it, thinking that it will last no more than a few months, and it actually made perfect sense, because importation was very limited, and surely Germany, that is the main exporter to Greece, will lose billions every year. But now, after 2+ years, it's obvious that they don't care, because this is the end game for the bankers. The bankers will try to confiscate everything that is left in my country, and soon in your country, either you want to believe it or not. Let's go back to silver. Here you see 20 ounces of silver in Silver Eagle state-minted United States coins. In 2001, you needed $90 to get them. In 2005, $140, and so on. What I want to point out here is that nothing changed for the 20 ounces of silver. There are still 20 coins of the same weight, purity, beauty, size, and shape. So what is happening is not actually the coins going up in value, but the paper money losing value rapidly. Now they artificially suppress silver down to the price of 2010 for many reasons that I will explain in another presentation, because that subject needs at least 1 hour analysis, and I'm here to give you just the basics. But here I have a hint for you. We decide the price of gold and silver, and we determine if these metals are precious or not. J.P. Morgan in a letter to his son. Also, extremely interesting is what Alan Greenspan, a former chairman of the Federal Reserve, wrote and supports everything we learn here today about real money, free market, and private property. He wrote, and I quote, "In the absence of the gold standard, there is no way to protect savings from confiscation through inflation. This is the shady secret of the welfare status tirades against gold. Deficit spending is simply a scheme for confiscating the wealth. Gold stands in the way of this insidious process. It stands as a protector of property rights. If one grasps this, one has no difficulty in understanding the status tirades antagonism towards the gold standard." Do you have enough gold and silver outside the paper casino the banks created? Probably not, because this is knowledge that only 0.0001% of the people have, and now you are one of them, and it's time to take action. Now this is $1 million piece of information, as we're going through the second part of this seminar, and we're talking about the solution number 1, that is, as you guessed, saving and investing into gold and silver, meaning real money outside the banking system. Silver is more rare than gold. If today we try to divide all the gold reserves that we have mined at the last 5,000 years and still exist above ground to all the people on the planet, then every one of us will get 1/3 of an ounce, meaning 10 grams of gold. If we try to do the same with silver, we're all getting 1/14 of an ounce of silver, meaning about 2 grams each. This is because silver has 10,000 uses in the industry, and we destroy it and consume it so much, so today we have 4 times less silver above ground than we have gold. So I ask you this: how long until the price of silver will reach and exceed the price of gold? Well, the US Institute of Geological Survey stated that by 2020 all the above ground reserves of silver will be over, and the demand of silver will continue to be 20% more than the silver we will be able to extract from the ground. In other words, soon there will be a great shortage of silver, and we need it so much because all of our technology needs silver. At the same time, gold, after 5,000 years of mining, is almost over. According to the same Geological Institute, we have about 25 more years of gold mining, and that is it. The rest is so deep close to the Earth's core that we won't be able to extract even with the future technology. This means one thing and one thing only: get and secure your gold and silver now that you can, for as long as you can, before everyone wants them but can't have them. What is silver? Silver is an extremely rare metal, the best conductor of heat of all metals, the best conductor of electricity of all metals. It reflects light better than anything else. We use it in lasers, and all the mirrors have silver in them. It kills thousands of microbes, viruses and bacteria, so it's used in medicine, and it's known to be the best natural antibiotic. It can be bent without breaking. It can become cables, extremely thin layers, so it is a malleable and ductile metal. It does not corrode and remain inactive with air and water. Precious metals are called precious for a reason, and it's not because they are beautiful. Here are a few examples of the uses of silver in the industry: solar panels, medicine, everything to do with technology, phones, computers, even in clothes. And lately, investors and savers are waking up and buy as much as they can, as fast as they can. Russia and China, until 2010, were the biggest exporters of gold and silver in the world. After 2010, not only they won't export any of the gold and silver that they mine, but they import as much of them as they can. China, every year for the last few years, is buying the whole annual mining supply of gold every year, and they also buy a lot of silver. Be smart. Be like China. They have double gain from that. They know what is coming, and they are preparing like you should. First, they unload all the useless dollars and euros they gather in their vaults because they know they are worthless. And two, with all that worthless paper, they get the most valuable things on earth, gold and silver, and probably soon, when they have enough, they will back their currency with gold and silver and return the planet into a fair monetary system, the gold standard. When that happens, what do you want to have in your hands? Paper or gold and silver? Netherlands had secretly repatriated most of their gold reserves. All the gold buyers that you see in Europe, they buy gold and silver and send it to Germany, that also repatriated some of its gold from the United States. India is buying like crazy. In Switzerland, there was a referendum because people started asking their government to back their money at least by 20% gold, but they failed so far. And as I inform you, industry and investors and savers will be fighting soon over the little gold and silver that has been left above ground, and the even lesser gold and silver that we are able to mine every year. Just think about what will happen when big corporations, institutions and pension funds wake up to gold and silver. Oh, look at this. Even the big banks don't want their own money anymore. HSBC in January 2013 bought silver bars worth of $876 million. I wonder why, and it's not the only one. This is from Bloomberg, an article titled, "They are buying silver like there is no tomorrow. Are they preparing for a crisis? Of course they are, because they are the ones that create the crisis. JP Morgan Bank bought and took delivery of more than 7 million ounces of silver within a week in April 2015. Gold. On August 2015, Goldman Sachs, that stated that they don't buy gold because they expect the price to fall, bought and took delivery of 3.2 tons of physical gold. The same date, HSBC, that claimed the same, also bought and took delivery of 3.9 tons of gold. Stop listening to the bankers and do what they do, not what they say they do. You don't believe me? Fine. Let's hear what Robert Kiyosaki has to say about silver.
Now, you also bring up inflation, which is going to be a huge topic as the economy moves forward and rebounds out of recession. What can investors do to protect themselves from inflation?
Well, I think to protect yourself from inflation, you should do what the Chinese are doing. Because the U.S., Bernanke and those boys are printing trillions of dollars and not telling us about it. I mean, I think it was Bloomberg that just sued the Fed for, you got to open up your books. They're printing all of this money. You should do what the Chinese are doing. The Chinese are buying commodities. They're buying copper, oil, gold, silver, land. They just did that huge Canadian tar sands deal up in Canada. So that's all I've ever done. If you look at my investment portfolio, I started investing in oil in 1966, real estate in 1973, and I have my own gold mine and my own silver mine. So if you're afraid of inflation, which you should be, I would think silver is the #1 investment today. Silver is a smoking deal. And silver at about $15, $16, $20 an ounce, average Joe can do it. You just cut out your Starbucks for a while and go buy some silver. You're in the game. Silver is one of the biggest things against inflation you'll ever see. Great investment.
Are you personally buying silver?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been buying it for years, so I just love silver. But I was buying it at $3 an ounce. Today it's about 15. The reason I like silver is this. #1, gold is hoarded. It's just stuffed away. It has no value to it. Silver is an industrial commodity. It means it's used in cell phones, cameras, computers. It's used everywhere. So that means today, what's really interesting is that there is more gold on planet Earth than silver. It is fantastic. And back when, 1 year ago, I think silver was 50 times less expensive than gold. In other words, for 1 ounce of gold, I could buy 50 ounces of silver. Today, 1 ounce of gold will buy 70 ounces of silver, which means silver is a bargain today.
Now, with all the government expansion, inflation looming, taxes running higher, would you say Obama's running the country like a rich dad or a poor dad?
Obama? The guys who run the country, I write about this in a book called Conspiracy of the Rich. The people that run the country are Goldman Sachs. Come on, give me a break. And the guys that control Goldman Sachs. It's run by the international banking cartels of the world. The Federal Reserve Bank is not a bank. It is owned by the richest European and some Saudi money in the world. And the Federal Reserve Bank is the one that has caused this crisis. The Federal Reserve Bank was created in 1913. In 1944, there was a Bretton Woods Agreement. 1971, Nixon took the world off the gold standard. And after that, the Federal Reserve Bank controlled the world. And they could flood the world with fiat money. I mean, currency, that's paper. That's all it is. And throughout history, any time a nation has gone to fiat currency, in other words, government-sponsored money, the money has absolutely gone to zero. It has no value. So that's why you see gold fluctuating right now and silver fluctuating right now, oil fluctuating right now. It's because the world, the smart money knows the U.S. dollar is trash. I don't think Obama can do anything because he doesn't control the world. Goldman Sachs does.
Robert Kiyosaki, best-selling author, investor, motivational speaker, and inventor, author of the upcoming book, Conspiracy of the Rich. Robert, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thank you. This has been an interesting experience. Thank you.
Signing off, I'm Dan Mandrew for Newsmax TV Money.
In conclusion, because the information might be overwhelming and way too much for you to handle, keep in mind these things. First, you probably won't get any pension, and the pensioners will probably lose their pension soon. 2. Your savings in the bank will disappear through low and negative interest rates, inflation, and confiscation. 3. If you don't save at all, you should, and the only way you can save is in gold and silver. 4. Silver is the best and cheapest way to save and at the same time invest, create a pension, and have it as insurance to counterbalance crisis and inflation. 5. Silver is already more rare than gold by 4 times, and gold, I believe, soon will go up to at least $20,000 to $50,000 per ounce. 6. Even if gold stays at around 100 $1,200 and silver hits the 1-to-1 ratio, that is very likely, silver will have gone up 60 times in the next 3 years, if I'm right. My proposal is that your portfolio must have at least 15% real silver and gold. That is not a new notion. Throughout the 70s and 80s, almost all portfolio and wealth managers were proposing exactly that, but later they realized they couldn't make money on precious metals. It was better to sell you stocks and bonds for 20 and 30% commission than gold and silver for 3% commission. In fact, today with all this uncertainty and crisis coming, I can look you in the eye and honestly say that what you need is to take a piece of paper, write down all your assets and how much they're worth, then write down and add all your debts, then get that number, and 20% of that number is how much precious metals you should have. If the number is $100,000, let's say, then you need $20,000 worth of gold and silver, mostly silver. What I propose to my clients is to use 80% in silver and 20% in gold of the 20% of all the net worth, if they want to be filthy rich. But hey, if you don't want to do the same, just using 5 to 10% of your portfolio in precious metals, then you're in the game. So the solution number one is simple. Get as much silver and gold as you can now that you still can. Of course, it will do you no good to just know what you need and why you need it if you don't know where to find it. And I'm here to show you exactly what I do. There are different forms of silver that you can get. And the people of Mint Builder are happy to help you save and invest depending on your needs. I know this company and I trust it as I trust its people for more than 4 years now. I wouldn't risk my reputation and my name, so I had to be 100% certain before I propose Mint Builder to anyone else. Out there you can find bars, scrap silver, gold and silver coins and bullion, as there are collectible MS-70 coins that are the perfect coins for collectors. Mint Builder is a 7-year-old international company that, apart from dealers, we are educators and precious metals investors ourselves. Unlike the banks and the politicians, we advise you to do what we are already doing. The rich invest their money and spend what is left. The poor spend their money and invest what is left, and that's why they are doomed to stay poor. It is as simple as that. So here is one way to start saving and investing, or just build your own pension. With us, you can learn to play with different rules and become your own bank.
Do you save money every month? Perhaps you're saving for that new car, your children's college education, or even for your retirement. Then, like many other people, you're probably still saving in the traditional way. Every month you get your salary, and then you take some of the money you've earned and drop it into your savings account in the hope that it all pays off in the end, right? Well, unfortunately, just like you, many people are discovering that this just isn't a great plan, and that your savings just aren't going to give you the income and security you'll need as you get older, or for those unexpected things life throws at us all. You know, kids, schools, that first car, grandchildren, and all the other great but expensive things that you're probably going to have to subsidize. Well, we've got some great news for you. There's a simple way to save that could make a massive difference to your wealth if you take action right now and follow some very easy steps. And if you're already saving paper money, then you can probably convert the money you already save each month into this amazing and little-known method of building wealth. So how does it work? For thousands of years, there has been a small elite group of people around the world who discovered an ancient truth. But more importantly, they acted upon that knowledge and it made them wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. Time and time again over the centuries where someone acquired the knowledge we're about to share with you, they have inevitably grown wealthier and wealthier and lived out their days in comfort and without fears or worries about money. Today, more and more people are discovering the same simple secret and acting upon it to secure their own financial futures. This simple method doesn't rely on how much you save, but more importantly, what you save. Let me explain. Let's take Mike here. Mike started saving in 1986 and he put around $60 a month into a savings account to save some money for his children's college fund. Like most other people, Mike believed that putting money into a bank account was the best thing to do, as it's what everyone else did. Mike left the money in the savings account year after year, believing that if he left it long enough, the interest would be significant enough for him to have a good return on his money, so he could pay for his youngest daughter's college. Just the other day, Mike went to the bank to withdraw his savings and interest. Remember, it's been 31 years since Mike opened the savings account in 1986, so you can imagine his disappointment when the cashier gave him just $26,175.75. During the 31 years Mike had his savings account, he paid in a total of $22,320, which means over the same period, the savings account returned a profit of just $3,855.75 over and above Mike's deposits. In real terms, this means for saving paper money for 31 years, Mike earned just $124 a year in interest on average. I think you're right to be disappointed, Mike. However, if Mike had taken his paper money and bought just one graded silver collectible coin every month for the last 31 years, today Mike would own 372 coins with a value of well in excess of $1 million. And that's the secret. It's not how much you save, it's what you save and how you save that can make all the difference to your short, medium and long-term wealth plans, and that's how we can help. Welcome to mintbuilder.com. Our mission at mintbuilder.com is to show ordinary people just like you, Mike and many others how easy it is to acquire and build your own mint of collectible, valuable graded coins along with gold and silver bullion. We have a very easy and affordable system of automatic savings that allows you to convert ordinary paper money into tangible, valuable assets that will increase in value and beat inflation and traditional saving methods hands down every time. With mintbuilder.com, you can save as little or as much as you want when you want. Or you can take the fast lane to wealth by opting for our auto saver plan. It's completely up to you. There's no contracts and you can liquefy your savings at any time because unlike any other saving vehicle, your savings are in your hands. You own and control your very own mint.
That's exactly it. Precious metals in bullion or in collectible coins is right now and has always been the road to true wealth. We will help you get out of the banking and monetary system and become your own bank. That was the first part of my solution. But precious metals have one big disadvantage. You get them and you keep them until their price meets their real value. They don't create any income for you or your family in order to live comfortably until the day comes they're worth a fortune, so you can exchange them with something that you need or want. But I'm in the very pleasant position to show you how here in Mint Builder we can help you overcome that disadvantage. The secret is to create residual passive income for you. Let me show you some ways everyone can at least try to do that before I jump into what I'm doing for my team and what I can do for you. Well, we all know Amazon, right? Millions of people buy stuff from Amazon, but look at up there in the right corner. It says Amazon Associates. It means everyone can become associate or independent partner with Amazon and promote goods and products, and when people buy them through his link, he can enjoy commissions. You see, not many people know that. 99.9% of the people buy stuff from Amazon, 0.1% of the people are making money on Amazon. This is YouTube. 99.9% of us are watching funny videos and have a good time. 0.1% of the people are making money from YouTube by using commercials on their videos. videos that they create only one time, and that video pays them for years without having them to do the same video again and again like you have to do with your work every day, otherwise it will stop paying you. More examples of smart ways to make money by making your interest and your passion into a wealth-making machine. If you're into music, for example, you can easily publish it today, and if it's good, your CD that you'll create it one time will probably sell and provide you with income for years to come. The same with a book for kids or serious academic work. All these things need time, of course, and energy, but not much money. Also, a web page with nice, useful content that interests you and others, or a blog where you can advertise stuff, promote your business and yourself. Do you think that the rich people became rich by doing what you are doing, working 8 to 12 hours per day for the rest of their lives? No. You cannot become rich without making money while you sleep, while you play golf, or you playing video games, or everything else besides working. This is the biggest trap or scam in the world, called 40-40-40 scam. The 40-40-40 scam is where you make someone else rich by working 40 plus hours per week for 40 plus years and then try to retire on 40% of what you couldn't afford to live off in the first place. This scam is commonly known as a job. So how can one escape this scam? This is how I'm escaping with Mint Builder.
With mintbuilder.com, you can also get access to what we call wholesale pricing on these wonderfully interesting and valuable assets, making your saving plan even more affordable. What's more, on top of that, as a wholesale customer, you can earn a great income from home by using the free tools we supply you so that you can show others how to get onto the Auto Saver plan and how they can buy these valuable assets too. As a wholesale customer, we simply pay you the profit on any orders that come through your professionally built personal website, which by the way is also free to wholesale customers, and we pay you the difference in price between what you pay as a wholesale customer and what your customers pay as retail customers. There's no stock to handle. We take care of all the transactions, and we even drop ship all orders for valuable collectible coins and bullion directly to your customers within 10 days of their order anywhere in the world. Simply guide new customers to your personal website and we'll do the rest. If your customers decide they too want to become a wholesale customer, then they will be in your team and you will earn even more money as a result of the new wholesale customers that they introduce. Over time, as your team grows, so will your income, and that's on top of your increasing savings that are accruing in your own personal mint. This business is so lucrative that you could earn up to $10,000 a week every week for the rest of your life simply for introducing people to a better way to save. Who do you know who would want to become wealthier for doing something that they are already doing but in a slightly different way? But wait, we're not done yet. You also get a dedicated back office suite of tools that allows you to see your team grow, track orders, and see your commissions and much more. Again, all of this is provided to you free as part of your wholesale customer membership so that you can focus on showing people how your savings and income are growing exponentially side by side. Mintbuilder.com is an advanced company, and we recognize the growth of cryptocurrencies and understand that many people now want to use Bitcoin to pay for goods. No problem. We're ahead of the curve, and Mintbuilder.com accepts Bitcoin for all orders regardless of size. So if you're like Mike and completely disillusioned with the traditional way of saving, and you're looking for a fun and exciting way to increase your wealth and your income at the same time, then join us at mintbuilder.com and start building your own mint of valuable fine mint coins and bullion today. To get started right away, simply click the Register Now button below. To get your account set up or get back to the person who showed you this short video to get more information on how you can access wholesale pricing and earn a great residual income too. Whatever you choose, we look forward to helping you build your own mint at mintbuilder.com. P.S. Once you've registered, we'll automatically send you details on how to earn a great income by recommending mintbuilder.com to others.
It's pretty simple, especially for you that now are educated and know at least the basics in history of money, economics, how the monetary and banking system works, and what gold and silver are. Start saving and investing in real physical gold and silver that will be delivered to you in wholesale prices, and start making money with us by helping us educate others and show them how to do the same and get paid in cash, precious metals, or Bitcoin if they prefer. Everybody has also the opportunity to buy precious metals with Bitcoin, and my bet is that soon many people with Bitcoin will want to exchange it with gold and silver. This seminar/presentation that I personally created for my team can be your best tool 24/7. Be one of us and start sharing it. Mint Builder is an international company with 7 years experience in the precious metal market, and it will provide you with a ready-to-operate business where metals are managed and delivered. It will provide you with a professional website and web store where people can buy gold and silver and pay with cash or Bitcoin. Mint Builder will provide everything for free, from accounting, commission calculating, shipping, stock and storage of precious metals, so you will have none of the expenses that traditional businesses have. Wholesale prices for you, and a prepaid card to withdraw your cash earnings if you don't want them delivered to you in the form of silver and gold, or if you don't want Bitcoin. Congratulations! Now you know more than 99.9999% of the rest of the people on the planet. Now you are already way ahead of everyone else, and you can outrun the zombies. Because this is how most of the people will look and behave when this system collapses, because it will collapse. The stock market is again at all-time high. The same with the real estate market, derivatives market, credit and debt market. Absolutely nothing has changed since the crisis of 2008, and the banks have been packaging again all the toxic investments out there and started selling them to us and to one another. All the failed industries and businesses out there are merging in order to create more and bigger, too big to fail companies, in order to force our governments to bail them out and make us pay the bill. It's time to wake up and take action. That's it. My presentation is over. If you like the information, share this video with everyone you know. If you're interested in Mint Builder, contact right away the person that sent you this video, because he or she is probably already in our team, and they will bring you in contact with me or other well-informed people like me. If you just happen to stumble upon this presentation and you know no one in Mint Builder, then contact me directly through my personal webpage, www.eurozombie.com. To start with Mint Builder business, you only need about $200 to become a member in our Knowledge Club, and everything else is, as I said, free and in the package. Contact me or the one that approached you with this video for more details. Come get to know us. Before I say goodbye to you, I just want your undivided attention for 10 more minutes so you can listen to what Jim Rickards has to say about the big crisis that is coming between 2018 and 2020. Pay attention, because he is the man that governments and the bankers call when they mess things up really bad and cry for help. Bye-bye for now, and I hope to see you in Mint Builder with us.
And I talked about two other crises, 1998 and 2008. Now, in both of those panics, 1998, there was a global financial panic. They printed the money and gave you your money back. In 2008, global financial panic, again, central banks printed trillions of dollars. People were able to get some liquidity. In the next crisis, it's going to be bigger than the central banks. The central banks are not going to be able to bail it out, because this crisis will be bigger than their capacity to do so. So where's the liquidity going to come from? Well, it's going to come from the International Monetary Fund with this world money they have. It's a funny name. It's called the Special Drawing Right, or SDR. But that's going to take 3 or 6 or 8 months to actually do. You got to get all the countries in the world together. They've got to agree, come up with a plan. That's going to take a while to do. In the meantime, there's going to be a financial panic. It's going to be bigger than the central banks. It's going to take 6 months or longer for the IMF to rise to the rescue. They're going to lock down the system. They're going to freeze the system. Money market funds will not give you your money back. Banks will be closed. ATMs will be reprogrammed. Maybe they'll give you, say, 300 pounds a day for gas and groceries, maybe less, but they'll say, why do you need more than that? So you've got, 50,000 pounds in the bank. They'll say, sorry, you can only have, 300 pounds a day for gas and groceries. We'll get back to you about the rest. Banks will be closed. Exchanges will be closed. A couple of things. First of all, this has all happened before. Everything I just described has happened. In 1933, President Roosevelt closed every bank in America. 1914, the New York Stock Exchange was closed for 5 months. As recently as 2015, ATMs and banks were taken offline in Greece. By the way, Richie, this is happening in India today. I finished this book, The Road to Ruin. I finished writing it in early September. And, it takes a couple months to bind it and put it in boxes and ship it out to the bookstores and all that. I could see all this was coming. I didn't know it would be here when the book came out, but it's in India today. They've actually, imagine waking up tomorrow morning and Prime Minister May has said all 5, 10, and 20-pound notes are illegal. They're no longer legal tender. That's what happened in India. Prime Minister Modi woke up and said the 1,000 rupee note and the 500 rupee note are illegal. They are no longer money. By the way, 1,000 rupees is about 15, 20 pounds, so it's comparable. So they said, well, what you can do, it's illegal, you can't spend it, but you can bring it down to the bank and deposit it. We'll give you digital credit in your account. Oh, by the way, the tax man was waiting at the counter. If you walked in with a large pile of notes, say, well, here are my old notes. I'd like to get these digital credits. They'll say, well, where did you get the money? So the tax inspectors are there. This dissuaded a lot of people from going down. Those who did got digital money. They didn't get paper money. And then, of course, that means they can freeze it or impose negative interest rates. They did come up with a new 2,000 rupee note. You could exchange it. Guess what? This shows how idiotic this was. The new paper money they printed was the wrong size. It didn't fit in the ATMs. They had to go around and close every ATM in India and, refit them so they could dispense these new notes. It's been a disaster. There have been money riots. People have been standing in line for days to do this exchange. First of all, about a year ago, the European Central Bank banned the 500 euro note. There used to be a 500 euro note. That's now illegal going forward. So the biggest one is a 200 euro note. In the U.S., Larry Summers, a professor at Harvard, Ken Rogoff, another professor at Harvard, Summers wants to ban the $100 bill. Rogoff wants to get rid of cash completely. Sweden is well down the road to a cashless society. More and more merchants are saying we don't take cash. Even if it's legal, we don't take it. By the way, I'm sure it's similar in the UK. Americans think they can go get their cash out of the bank. Don't even try it. You go up and ask for, $2,000 or $3,000, not a particularly huge amount of money. They'll call the manager over. The teller's face will turn white. They'll file a report with what we call the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That report will go into a file somewhere between Osama bin Laden and Pablo Escobar. I mean, you're treated like a criminal, a perfectly honest citizen. They'll treat you like a terrorist, a drug dealer, or a tax evader.
For asking for your own money, Jim. For saying I want my own money.
For your own money, exactly right. So there's a global war on cash. Now, I also said, Richie, I don't recall if we said it on the show the last time, but it's in my book. The war on cash leads very quickly to the war on gold because gold is an alternative. So if you're making money impossible to get, I said, if you want to slaughter cattle, first thing you have to do is round them up into a pen. So if the elites want to slaughter savers, they have to round them up into these digital pens, the big banks, digital accounts, no paper, cashless society. Round everybody up, and then you can slaughter them with negative interest rates, confiscation, taxes, account freezes, etc. Well, cash is an alternative to that, but they're making cash illegal or extremely difficult to get. But you can still get gold. I'm talking about physical gold, not paper gold. Physical gold, whether it's coins, sovereigns, or our American Gold Eagles, or other forms, you can put those in a safe place, not in the banking system, by the way, because the day you most want your gold is the day the banks are going to be closed. So that's what we call conditional correlation. Those two things will happen together. You'll want your gold to be banging on the door of the bank. They won't let you in. But there are non-banks, places. I'm not an endorsement, but I know Sharps Pixley down at Jermyn Street in London, and there are other places around the UK, reputable dealers, private vaults. You can store it safely. But the elites are going to wake up to this. They're going to say, hey, we boxed everybody in. We made it impossible to get cash. We put them into these digital slaughterhouses so we can take their money digitally, but people have gone to gold. The war on gold is right behind the war on cash. My advice, get your gold now while you still can.
This is amazing stuff, by the way. Folks, then we've got Jim Rickards on the line. We're talking about his brand new book, The Road to Ruin.
If an earthquake starts, you can't stop it. An earthquake is a release of energy. That's what an earthquake is. That's how they're defined. You can't stop it. But imagine if you could. Imagine a thought experiment. You could stop an earthquake in the middle of its activity. What would happen? All that would happen is the energy would be stored up. It would be waiting for the next time. It wouldn't be released, and the next earthquake would be worse. That's what happens in a financial panic. The difference between a natural system and a man-made system is you actually can stop it in the middle. The central banks have done that by freezing accounts, printing money, bailing out banks. They've stopped the earthquake, but they didn't solve the problem. They just bottled up this unreleased energy. That's why each crisis gets bigger than the one before. Each bailout gets bigger than the one before. And my point is the next one coming soon is going to be bigger than the central banks. They're going to have to go to this world money from the IMF. They're going to have to lock down the system. They're going to have to seize depositor money, wipe out equity. It's going to be bad.
And of course, these the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, ultimately then, that agenda is to take the real wealth that was traditionally, historically owned by the people of any country. So sovereignty is gone, Jim. Do you think we're seeing in Europe, with recent elections, with the European Union referendum in the United Kingdom, do you think we're seeing a bit of a rebellion against that agenda?
Well, we definitely are. We saw it in Brexit. We saw it in the election of Donald Trump. We've seen it in the rejection of the Italian referendum on the constitutional change. That means Italy's going to have new elections soon and probably get more votes for the Five Star Movement, which is a nationalist, call it Trump or Brexit style movement. But here's what worries me. The global elites haven't gone away. They're losing these elections, and they're losing ground. Nationalism is coming back, globalism is fading, but the global elites agenda hasn't changed. They're still there. So what can they do? Well, one thing they do is just they wait it out. They never go away. Maybe one person dies and some protege takes his place. They train these new elites. They're self-selecting, self-perpetuating, so they never quite go away. And they're very patient. Sometimes it's 10 years between these shocks. But the other thing they use, and I talk about this in my book, The Road to Ruin, is called the shock doctrine. And the shock doctrine is if I have a really unpopular agenda, I have something that I know the voters are going to reject, but I cause a panic, I cause a shock of some kind, and I come along and say, hey, I've got the solution. People are so fearful, they buy into a solution that they wouldn't normally buy into because they're afraid. So if you have 40,000 pounds in the bank, you could take 4,000 pounds, you could buy 4 ounces of pure gold, put it in a safe place, don't put it in a bank safe deposit box. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Hopefully I'm just wrong and these things don't come to pass. But I obviously wouldn't be talking about them if I thought I was wrong. I can see this coming. And so when it happens, if they do close the bank, you'll have your 4 ounces of gold. You'll be protected. Your wealth will be preserved. So even people of modest means can do this. Even if you had 10,000 pounds, take 1,000 pounds and go buy 1 ounce of gold. Put it in a safe place. That'll preserve your wealth. No, look, if you have £1 million or 5 million pounds, I mean, you're kind of stuck. You can't. You can buy a certain amount of gold. Again, I recommend 10%. If you have 100,000 pounds, the first thing I would do, again, I would use my 10% rule. I would take 10,000 pounds, so you could buy 10 ounces of gold. So now you hope the banking system doesn't crash. You hope your account's not frozen. But if it is, you've got your gold outside the system. And what's going to happen to the price of gold in that scenario? When they shut down the banks, the price of gold is going to skyrocket. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go up a lot tomorrow. It might go down a little bit tomorrow. But in the panic, when that comes, the price of gold is going to skyrocket, and that's going to preserve your wealth. One way I think about it, Richie, it's kind of like fire insurance on your house. Nobody wants this house to burn down. But heaven forbid if it does, you're sure glad you have the insurance. And so that's one way to think about it. It's you don't want a financial panic to happen, but if it does and they shut the banks, having that physical gold off to the side will preserve your wealth. Well, here's the thing, Richie. In my book, I talk about 2018, but the reason I did that is there was a panic. We were just hours away from closing every stock and bond market in the world. And September 28th, 1998, I have a whole chapter on that in my book, The Road to Ruin. That was the Russia long-term capital management crisis. The reason I know that, I negotiated that bailout. I was in the room with the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, and the big banks. I actually did that deal. I know how close we came to complete catastrophe. Come forward 10 years to 2008, we were days away from the sequential collapse of every major bank in the world. So Bear Stearns had failed in March 2008. Our big mortgage agencies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, failed in June 2008. Lehman Brothers failed in September 2008. Morgan Stanley was just a couple days away, then Goldman, then Citibank. All of them would have collapsed. Again, the Fed intervened, truncated that process. It didn't come to the worst, but it was extremely close. So we've come within hours or at most days from collapsing the entire system twice in a 10-year span, 1998 to 2008. So all I do, I come out 10 more years just to keep that 10-year tempo. 2008, I talk about this third crisis, and we talked about it on the show already with ICE 9 and the freezes and special drawing rights and all that. But here's my point. It could be 2018, but it could be tomorrow. In other words, don't wait. By the way, when this happens, it will happen very quickly. It'll start out slowly, but no one will kind of notice. They go, oh, by the way, good example, the panic of 2008 when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, September 15th, 2008. That actually started in the spring of 2007. Some of the mortgage losses started to show up. Then there were some hedge funds that failed and some money market funds that closed in the summer of 2007. And then, as I mentioned, Bear Stearns, so that in March of 2008. So that took a year to play out. Same thing happened in 1998. That actually started in 1997, June 97, in Thailand, and then it spread to Indonesia, Malaysia, Korea, Russia, and then finally long-term capital management blew up. So there are two lessons. Number one, these things start out in small ways. It can take a year to sort of spread around the world, but nobody sees it coming. These things are happening. It's like, oh, it's only Indonesia, who cares? It's only Malaysia, who cares? But they don't know that these are like dominoes falling, and you're the last domino, and it's heading your way. So that's the first thing to understand. But the second thing is when you get to the acute stage, so the height of the panic, September 2008, for example, or September 1998, it's too late. And things are happening very quickly, and people go, oh, well, call me the day before, and I'll sell my stocks and go get some gold. I'm not going to know the day before. I can see it coming. I can see these things unfolding. You may not be able to get the gold. If the price of gold is skyrocketing and you wake up and say, oh, well, gee, I better, get some cash and get some gold, you might not be able to get it. The dealers will be sold out. The mints will be back ordered. The big guys will get it. Central banks will get it, and the big hedge fund billionaires. But everyday people, you won't be able to get it. You'll be watching TV. You'll be watching the price skyrocket on TV, and you won't be able to get any. It won't matter to you. So my advice is, what are you waiting for? Do it now.
Silver and gold, silver and gold. Everyone wishes for silver and gold. How do you measure its worth? Just by the pleasure it gives here on earth. Silver and gold means so much more when I see